You are a special little snowflake. Congratulations. If I'm the first person to tell you this, I'm sorry that you had a really crappy childhood, but I'm here today to tell you that when it comes to training variables, your individual makeup, your genetic makeup is very important. The way that you react to training stimulus, to frequency, to volume, to intensity, they're all incredibly important. Today we're going to discuss individual differences in volume, frequency, and intensity, and hopefully these concepts will help you break through plateaus as you transition from being a beginner where most things work to being an intermediate where you have to get a little crafty to continue to make progress. Because these things are incredibly important, you're not going to benefit from just pulling a random program off of T Nation or watching Chris Bumstead do 1,000 pounds in the leg press and going and mimicking that. You're not going to get the best results. Now, as a beginner, obviously anything and everything goes within reason, but most of these things are going to work for you. But everyone in their lifting career will come to a point where these cut and dry programs that don't take into account your individual needs are going to stop working for you. It is at that point you have to be a little bit more intelligent. You have to start applying individual training principles to your own training. You may not respond to high volume training like some of the Bulgarians do with their squat everyday programs. You may not respond well to high intensity training, and sometimes you need to bring the intensity down. We have defined training frequency on this channel, but let's talk about the individual differences in training frequency. We know that based on the research, 2 to 4 training bouts for a specific muscle group per week has been shown to be effective. That means that if you walk into the gym 4 different times and you train quads, each of those times you are training your quads with a frequency of 4 times per week. Now, this may work for some people. Some people may be able to recover enough and sufficiently to get good working stimulus every time that they train their quads. Even if that's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, some genetic freaks out there are going to be experiencing a lot of benefit from this. I am not one of those people. If I do a set of high bar squats, the next time that I look at a leg press for the next 3 to 4 days, I'm ready to vomit. Now, the only way for you to really know where you land on this frequency spectrum is to experiment with it. Now, I'm not saying that every other week you need to switch up 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, but take a mesocycle, a block of training between 4 and 6 weeks, and say, I'm gonna train my quad specifically with a frequency of twice per week. Monitor your results. See how you're recovering. See if you're getting quadricep gains. Look at your quads in the mirror. Measure them. Get some objective data to understand if 2 times a week is effectively training your quads. And then on the next mesocycle, maybe we bump it up to 3 times a week and we compare. We do an N=1 experiment on ourselves to find out where our individual difference lies with training frequency. This is going to take some time, but that is what training is about. If we want to really optimize our training, then we have to put the work in. And the work is not just killing yourself in the gym. It is also mentally thinking about your training and understanding how you respond to different variables. For my powerlifters out there, this can be applied to the big lifts, let's say the squat, bench, and the deadlift. Some people, like I mentioned before, the Bulgarians, can squat every day with different loads, different intensities, and be totally fine with their recovery. You may benefit from that high frequency of training. I know folks that can bench press and squat 4 or 5 times a week and not have any adverse effects. But again, you have to determine if that is right for you. So same approach, take a mesocycle and squat twice a week. On your next mesocycle, try squatting 3 times a week. And it doesn't have to be a competition squat every time. It can be squat, some type of squat variation. Like if you squat low bar, you could squat high bar on day 2 of your training, or you could use a safety bar or bands or chains or any type of different stimulus that can be enough to allow you to go through the overall movement pattern of a squat without it being your competition style squat every single time you come in the gym. However, maybe you will benefit from competition style squatting 4 times a week. You do not know until you try. Do it intelligently, and if you start to run into a wall of recovery, maybe it's time to pull back and take one of those days away. When it comes to volume, it's very similar as frequency. Again, there are major individual differences between whether someone can do 20 to 30 sets of their chest per week or 8 to 10 sets of their chest per week. And you will not know, say it with me, until you try. You have to give each of these training styles a shot. So the best way that I have found to find where my maximum recoverable volume is to start a mesocycle at a given volume. So let's say week 1 for our chest, we're doing 10 working sets. On week 2, we may jump up to 12. Then week 3, 14, 16 on week 5, and we go all the way until hopefully we reach our maximum recoverable volume at the last week of an accumulation phase, meaning the last week of hard training before we get a deload. This is not always going to happen as perfectly as I've just laid it out, but that's what the experimentation is for. Maybe you reach your maximum recoverable volume on week 3 and you've still got 3 more weeks of hard training. Next mesocycle, you understand I've got to start with my volume a little bit lower so that I can effectively add sets and get to my maximum recoverable volume a week, maybe 2 weeks out before a deload, so that you can hit that volume landmark, effectively train within that volume landmark, and then recover and start the whole process over again. This may be different for different muscle groups. Some people recover from chest very effectively, but their legs take a longer time, or vice versa. Usually, people can train their arms with more volume than they can train their back. But maybe you can train your back until the cows come home and your biceps are done after 10 sets. You don't know until you try. Broken record time, folks, but it is very important that you take these principles and experiment with them safely in the gym for yourself. Finally, let's discuss intensity, which for our purposes is going to be defined as load on the bar. And this is very simple when it comes to individual differences. You can watch Ronnie Coleman deadlift 1,000 pounds, and then you go and try and deadlift 1,000 pounds. Obviously, you are different from Ronnie Coleman, and you are not going to be able to deadlift 1,000 pounds unless you have trained to be able to deadlift 1,000 pounds. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. But some people may get confused and say, well, this guy's doing this much weight. I need to do this much weight. What? Throw your ego in the trash can and focus on the load that is appropriate for you at the given time that you are training. If you cannot perform a given rep with proper technique through a full range of motion, the weight is too heavy for you. Take some of the weight away. Understand that that weight will be there when you have appropriately trained for it. You need to be able to put your ego aside and use a weight that is appropriate for you given your training age, your experience with the lift, and all other factors that go into choosing your load. The big weights will be there when you have earned them. But first and foremost, you have to understand, use proper technique, use a load that is appropriate, and train hard. Hopefully now I have convinced you that you are indeed a special snowflake. Go forth and use this knowledge to get as strong as you possibly can. If some of these concepts were flying over your head, then you definitely need to click on this playlist right here and understand all of these training variables, because they will make you a better lifter and they will make you stronger. Until next time, my special little snowflakes, get strong and stay strong. Peace.